everyone, Jamie Madison here. Welcome back to my channel. So to make these little llamas that you're seeing, we are going to start things a little different. I'm going to show you all of the things that I'm using in this card kit. So to start, I'm using the Gina K Amalgam ink, the Woolly Lucky stamp set, the Lawn Fawn Stitched Hills, and paper from the kit, Salty Ocean Distress ink, Broken China, Peacock Feathers, Mermaid Lagoon, and Mowed Lawn. I'm also going to be using the Doodle Bug. I believe it's Doodle Bug. It's the stickers that came in the March kit, and I'm using the My Favorite Things cloud stencil. So to get started on this little llama, I just loved his neck, and I wanted to make his neck longer than what the stamp had. I wanted him to have like a giraffe neck in a way, but not like super long. So I just decided I was going to do some masking, and I put my little llama on some Bristol Smooth cardstock because I will be using my Arteza pens to do some blending. Now I started with my little llama in my stamp platform here, and I'm going to stamp him with that amalgam ink, and I'm just stamping his face and his neck. So I'm not going to stamp his body. And then I'm going to go in with my masking paper. And I'm just going to put that over his neck and his head so I don't restamp it. And thankfully this is thin enough that I can see where the neck ended on my paper. So I'm trying to line it up, but instead I'm going to take a pen and just draw a little line where his neck ends so I can see it a little bit better whenever I go to use my stamp. So I'm just going to line it back up here. So now I'm going to go ahead and stamp the rest of his body, and I'm using that same Gina K Amalgam ink. I don't have to worry about getting any ink on his head now because I do have the top of it masked off, and I'm going to stamp that twice like I did the first time. And so now whenever I go to remove my masking tape, he has a longer neck. And I know there's a little bit of a disconnection there, so I'm just going to grab one of my micron pens. This is an 03. This is the perfect width for this stamp. And I'm just going to go ahead and connect those together, and you would never even know he had a shorter neck. So to do my coloring, I'm going to be going in with my Arteza markers. I'm going to have all the list of my markers as I go in the left-hand corner of the screen. So if you want to use the same colors, they are provided for you. I also have a 20% off code for Arteza that I will leave down below. It is something that they sent me. It's for a personal use, so it wasn't intended for a YouTube video, but I figured I already have so many Arteza products that I might as well share my little coupon code. So I'll leave that down below for you guys. So to do the coloring, especially with Arteza markers, you need to be using a smooth kind of paper. If you use a watercolor paper, it is going to absorb the ink very quickly. You won't even get a chance to blend those colors out. If you're going for that kind of look, then by all means you can use a watercolor paper, but I recommend the Bristol Smooth. I get mine from Michaels, and I will leave a link down below for the exact one that I get. They do have a couple different Bristol papers, so I will let you know the one that I use. Now the reason I like the Bristol Smooth is because when I lay my ink down, it doesn't absorb right away. It's almost like it has a protectant about it not absorbing so quickly. So it gives me time to work with the color and not have to feel like I'm pressed for time that it's going to absorb too quickly and I'm not going to be able to get the blend that I want. So for this little llama, I know it's St. Patrick's Day, so I wanted to add a little bit of green in there for him. But then I also wanted to keep in my colors to make it a little bit of a different scene as well. So I pulled out my color wheel in the very beginning, and you'll see me use it a little bit throughout the video. I just wanted to make sure, because I am not the best at coordinating colors. So my little color wheel is amazing. It'll tell you what your main color is, and it gives you 3 colors that go great with that color. So if you're not very color coordinated like I am, but you want things to look good and complement each other, I recommend a color wheel. And I'll throw that in the link down below. I got mine at Michael's and I used a 50% off coupon for it, so it wasn't too expensive. So for my llama, I went with purples and greens. And then the background, we're going to be doing like a sky background as you've seen in the very beginning. So for that background, those are where we're going to bring in those distress inks. I just lined them up in order of what I put on the screen. And I just went in that order, and each time I rotated my stencil, I just grabbed a different color. And I just worked my way up. This is also on Bristol Smooth. So as you see, it lets me blend those colors very easily. They don't grab onto the paper, and it gives you a little bit more time to work with them. You don't have to load a whole bunch, so if you're getting more of a softer look, Bristol Smooth is the way to go on that one. So like I said, I just kind of went down the row of colors, and then I went back and blended a little bit more at the very end, just where there was more white and I wanted more clouds. So it worked really well. I like the way this looked. It's a very cloudy sky. I really like it. You could even do this as waves if you wanted to use the stencil. The trick to it is whenever you're blending, go darker towards the stencil and then blend it upwards. So whenever you go into your next cloud, it's going to blend more flawlessly and you're not going to get those harsh lines. So after I have my clouds just the way I want them, I'm going to move on to my grass. And I'm using the Lawn Fawn Stitched Hill die. And I'm just going to use it on the paper that came in the paper pad, the green with the, I guess they're like a rainbow. I'm not quite sure what you would call the design on this paper, but it looks like rainbows to me. And then I'm going to go in with my Distress ink, and I'm using the Mode Lawn for that. And I'm just going to blend all the edges because I wasn't quite sure which way I wanted my grass to go. So I just decided to blend it all so that way I have more of an option. So I went with this little combo here, and I liked the way this looked. So what I decided to do was I lined it up on my card the way I liked it. Then I pinched it together and brought it down so I could get my Tombow glue out and glue it together so it wouldn't move. And then I would be able to put it exactly where I wanted on the card, and I wouldn't have to worry about that piece moving. After I glued the front, I went ahead and flipped it over, and I put a whole bunch of glue all over it. I wasn't quite sure which side of the die cut I was going to end up going with, so I figured I'd just put glue all over it, and that way I had my bases covered when I went to put it onto my card. So to protect my work surface, I just grabbed a piece of copy paper, so a piece of paper I wasn't worried about throwing away, lined it up on my card the way I liked it, pushed it down, and then whenever I have it down on the card and it dries just for a second, this glue dries pretty quick, I went ahead and cut off the excess. After I finish cutting off the excess that is overhanging my card, I'm going to actually trim it up with my paper trimmer. That way it can be a little bit smaller than my card base, so I have a white border. If you want to know about the amount that I trimmed off of it, I would say it's about 1/4 of an inch on all sides. That way it would give me a nice little white border. I went ahead and took my llama and I fussy cutted him out. I did not leave a white border on him. I wanted him to be flush with the edges. And then I went ahead and I kind of cut off the back of his legs. So I wasn't able to fit it behind my hill very well, so I had to do a little bit of surgery on him. But that's okay. He didn't mind. He said that he wanted to be a little shorter. So I just went ahead and used my Tombow glue. This is a very flat card. This is a very easy to mail card. But with him having such small little details on his ears, his tail, and his legs, using foam tape was just not going to be, able to do that. Then I went ahead and pulled out my Doodlebug stickers. And I put a little ladybug, and I used 3 little flowers. I used a couple gold hearts as well. I went ahead and removed one because I decided I want to put a rainbow there. It is a little St. Patrick's Day card. Well, this actually could be any kind of card. It could just be a happy card. It doesn't actually say St. Patrick's on this card anywhere. I went ahead and trimmed my rainbow up a little bit so I could fit him behind my llama, my Mr. Llama man. And then I went ahead and took my X-Acto knife and just trimmed off the excess of the rainbow so it blended in with the hill perfectly. I just love the way this card turned out. I love little llamas and I love his long neck. He's just so cute. So as you can see, my Tombow glue holds very well. I had problems getting his feet behind the hill, and then I had problems getting the rainbow behind him or the clouds behind him, so I probably should have used foam tape. It would have been a little bit easier to maneuver things once it was done, but it ended up working out perfectly. You don't see any lines or bend marks or anything like that. I then took my Versamark and I stamped that down, and I stamped Woolly Lucky to Know You. So as you can tell, there's really nothing St. Patrick's Day about this card. The only thing that is St. Patrick's Day would be his hat and I guess his saddle blanket or saddle pad. I'm not quite sure what it is that's on his back. I'm wanting to say it's a blanket, a saddle blanket. But anyways, so I went ahead and heat embossed that in black, and I took my heat gun and made sure that was smooth and melted. I had to cut this a couple times because of his hat. I didn't want to overlap the hat. I wanted it to be close. So I did have to fussy around with this, with how long the banner was going to be. But I got it just about right. And I went ahead and took my Tombow glue and just glued that down. I then went ahead and took a little gold heart and just put that down. The one that I removed earlier, I wanted a little bit more bling in there to go with the heart that was in the cloud. I then went ahead and cut off the access for the sentiment and took a white scored card base, and then I went ahead and used my ATG gun to put that down. I didn't want to use the glue just because I don't like if it ends up rippling the card any at all. I wanted it to be nice and smooth. So after that, my card is complete. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate all your guys' love and support. It means absolutely everything to me. Thank you once again, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!